Warm up?
Oh, it does take a
there we
second,
go.
doesn't it? Okay.
Yep, just gotta warm up.
I'll allow Jason to get here first then.
Jason?
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, now we'll open up the May 18 meeting of the City of Walker Planning Commission. And first item on the agenda is a review of the meeting minutes from May 4. Any comments, questions? Or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Joe, to approve the minutes from the May 4 meeting. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is general public comment. This is an opportunity for someone to come forward and offer any comments on a non-agenda item. The agenda outlines a gas station, outdoor seating for a local kitchen, and building expansion. So if you wanted to talk something other than those three, this is an opportunity to do so. Seeing no takers on that, we'll move into the first agenda item. This is a final area site plan review for a project at 2352 Northridge. Look to city planner Tricia Anderson to introduce us. Thank you very much. My apologies.
Okay, thank you, Terry. So, as Terry noted, this is a final area site plan review for J&H Oil, who's proposing a gas station, C-store, and drive-through restaurant. And this item was tabled on September 1st of last year. So, the applicant has returned with a revised set of plans, which we've reviewed, and we'll have comments on tonight. And so the action requested by the Planning Commission is to review the final area site plan for a gas station, convenience store, and drive-through restaurant for the C6 site within the Walkerview CPUD, and grant approval with or without conditions, tabling, or denial of the request. Again, the property address is at 2352 Northridge Drive, and we have another parcel added to this project at 3352 Walker Avenue, which is lot C6 and a portion of lot C8 of the Walkerview CPUD. The total size of the project area is 2.99 acres. The zoning district is CPUD, and the future land use designation is Enterprise Northwest Neighborhood Cluster. And this is on the east side of Walker Avenue between Walkerview Court and Northridge Drive. And tonight we have Joe Grochowalski and Adam Feenstra. And now I'm experiencing the same memory loss as Terry, Don Vandenberg.
These are long days.
Yeah. Don Vandenberg with J&H Oil. So I've got a couple of slides here from my previous presentation, just to kind of refresh your memory. This is the Walkerview PASP. So we've got a number of industrial sites here, and then we have the commercial sites over here, the CPUD. This is the Holiday Inn, this is the existing GR Ophthalmology, and then this is the subject site here with a portion of this site. And so you may remember that in January of 2021, the PASP was amended to allow for gas stations on lots C6 and C8 of the Walkerview CPUD. Previously, it allowed for C3 only uses. And so this is the existing conditions. Again, this is the subject site. This is looking east toward the Holiday Inn. And then this is the Walkerview Court cul-de-sac here. Another repeat slide with the gas stations within the vicinity. So this is the Northridge corridor here. This is the subject site. Right now, Walker Avenue is working with just this one Meijer gas station. And so we feel that this site would be suitable as approved by that FASP amendment. So when they visited us in September of last year, we had 3 reasons for, we recommended that the Planning Commission table it, and then the Planning Commission voted to table the item. For the reasons being some cross-access connection points that we had asked for with a revised plan. And we had also asked for some traffic counts and level of service so we could get kind of an idea of how the surrounding intersections were functioning, because this would be a different use compared to when the FASP was first approved. And then on top of that, the stormwater design was inadequate. So since the applicant has, since that last meeting, they, I think, demonstrated a great deal of patience in dealing with the folks that own these 3 parcels here, which comprises lot C8 of the CPUD. They had been trying to work with the adjacent property owner to be able to just encroach a little bit with their right-in, right-out driveway, which was previously situated over here. So now that they have these 3 parcels, they have a lot more flexibility with where they can place their driveway, and they also have control over the parcels, and they can add cross-access easements to those parcels without having to negotiate with another property owner. The previous owner was not really all that amenable to cross-access. The PASP was originally designed so that service roads could be utilized, and driveways on Walker Avenue were discouraged, and in fact weren't part of the plan. So there's a lot of benefits from them being able to purchase all 3 of those parcels, and I think the site plan is going to work much better because of that. So the revised site plan is what you see here. And I'm going to go through the proposed improvements, and I'll highlight the changes from the previous site plan. But one of the biggest things with the revised site plan in comparison to the previous one is this 310-foot stretch between this intersection, Walker Avenue and Northridge Drive, and what they are proposing now as a full-service driveway. They've also added some pumps and I think a couple extra stacking spaces. So what they are proposing, still proposing obviously the fuel canopy. This time they're proposing 6 double-sided pump stations. Previously it was 5. In the convenience store space is proposed at 6,782 square feet, whereas before it was 4,693 square feet. So they've been able to enlarge that building footprint a little bit more also from having purchased those 3 parcels. The drive-through restaurant space remains the same. They're also proposing sidewalks and some pedestrian crossing areas within the site. And they are still honoring the internal service road connection to the Holiday Inn parcel to the east. This revised site plan provides for cross-access easements to the parcels that have frontage on Walkerview Court. Again, they're proposing a shared full-service driveway that would provide access to the subject site and future development of the remainder of the parcel. Still proposing the outdoor display and sales area, 41 parking spaces. Previously, it was 43 total parking spaces, and that included the pump spaces. This number of 41 does not include the parking at the pump. They have revised their stormwater facilities, and obviously Scott is going to dive much deeper into this aspect of the site. But what they've done is they've relocated the detention area over to the C8 parcel lot, and it will function as sort of a regional detention area for any future development on the remainder of lot C8, as well as the subject site. And then you've got your landscaping, lighting, air compressor and vacuuming stations, still the two double-sided diesel fuel pumps, box truck parking, loading zone, and signage. So this also is a repeat slide of the cross-access or the access management plan that we wanted to see on this site. And we feel that the revised plans have achieved the goal of being to make all these connections. And so again, having control over these parcels allows for them to put the access easement right over the parcel. They won't be building anything here because it'll be dependent on, what gets proposed for this site, and whether it's one parcel or two parcels. That's probably, that's still up in the air. But they did want to provide a shared access here, and then cross-access here, and then cross-access here. This one is also being proposed. So one of the issues reasons it was tabled before was, as I noted, the traffic data that we had asked for that we didn't receive at the time that we considered the last plan. And so looking at this in a different way, because they've been able to add more property to create a little bit more flexibility with where they can place the driveways. The full service driveway that's being proposed makes a lot more sense than what it did before because of the proximity to the intersection. So we did request traffic counts, and they did provide that data to us. They looked at Walker and 4 Mile, and they also looked at the Walker and the I-96 westbound off-ramp and the Walker Avenue at Northridge intersection. So we have all that data. We've sifted through it. Scott's looked through it. But again, based on a lot of the changes that have been proposed in the revised plan, we're no longer having those safety concerns as we would have with that intersection or the right-in, right-out driveway at 110 feet from the intersection. Oh, 150 feet, sorry. So I'm guessing Scott's going to talk a little bit more about traffic impacts.
Laid out quite a script for me.
Sorry. So my recommendation, I feel that the applicant has revised the plans to meet all of our expectations in terms of those 3 reasons that it was tabled. And so I have a recommendation subject to the 7 conditions listed here. And I can read those if you'd like, otherwise these are listed in my suggested motion, which will be read into the record.
Thank you, Tricia. Excuse me. Any comments or questions, Pat?
Tricia, on the, now that access is, right in, right out, those trees, those maple trees that are gonna be along that 300 feet, do we feel they're far enough back so that it doesn't, impede on vision when they're gonna take a left out of that driveway from traffic coming from Northridge?
Are you talking about the landscaping plan?
Yes,
So it's not gonna be a right in, right out. It'll be a full service driveway.
that's what I mean.
Oh,
So
okay.
it'll be, so you can take a left out of there now. Before it was just a right out of there. Now you can take a left. Now those trees are gonna be along the front of the gas station, which are gonna look nice, but will they get too big and then you can't see that, you can't even see the intersection if you're gonna take a left out of there?
Well, they shouldn't because
Okay.
they can't be in the right of way. And, where they've been placed is far enough on their side of the property line where I don't think it's gonna be an issue.
Okay, I just know those trees will grow, say 15, 20 years from now. So, okay.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll turn it over to City Engineer Scott Connors.
Got my name, nice. First off, we need to make sure that the plans are dated. I think as we look back at previous versions and try to track the changes, it's a little bit hard when there's not a date on there. So that's kind of a nice fundamental thing to ensure that we get added on if there's a approval that moves forward tonight. There are some cross-access easements, I believe, that are shown on the, make sure I get this right, the north and the east driveways. There's some dashed lines on there, but I didn't see any labels for those. So we want to make sure that labels are added, making it very clear on the approved site plan that those are required. And then also we need a cross-access easement on the south driveway as well, so that if they do happen to spin that off and sell that to somebody else with a strip mall or a fast food place someday, that they're not going to put up bollards and block each other out if they get mad at each other. So it has to be shown there as well. If you look at the site to the south, the new portion that's been added, there's a variety of easements in there that might look kind of confusing, and they are kind of confusing. I think they were put there at the very beginning of the development where Grand Rapids Ophthalmology came in. So there's going to have to be some cleaning up of some of those easements, and the stormwater pond that's going to go in there also needs to be put in an easement. The issue with the stormwater pond, though, is that's probably not going to be the final resting place for that. I think when they come in with a plan and want to develop that, they're probably going to put it underground or move it off to the side, and we need to kind of allow for that to be reconfigured in the future. So that's likely to change again, but we do want to make sure that it's in an easement for now. And in that pond, I think one of the design features they have, the outlet is 3.5 feet above the pond bottom, and we found that a little bit alarming, but then we discovered that they're planning on the bottom being sand. All sand, so that the water, and the sides being sand, so that all the water can just percolate in. With the new ordinance, we can't allow that without a specific test to confirm that the infiltration capacity is there. So we need to get that test, and if they can't provide that kind of capacity, then there'll have to be a redesign for that puts the outlet at the right elevation. Tricia mentioned the right in, right out. I think with the change there and moving the driveway further south and making it a full service driveway, it helps out a lot with some of our previous concerns. But then she also mentioned there was a request for an abbreviated traffic study last time, and I actually have not reviewed the most recent one. I did reach out to Progressive AE, who had worked on that, and I don't think they were authorized to release it or something like that. So I haven't seen it, but I do feel a whole lot better with the driveway location, because before we thought that all of that traffic leaving that site that wanted to go south was going to have to go via Northridge. So you'd introduce a left turn there, introduce another left turn onto Walker. With this being full serve, that changes quite a bit. So I think I'm a little bit more comfortable. But if that study's out there, I think we do want to review it to make sure that there's not a big glitch in it. That's it for me.
Okay, any comments, questions for Scott? I've got one, the drive-through lane behind the building that's proposed. It looks like it measures to be about a 20-foot width. feel that that will be sufficient to provide a bailout opportunities for those in the line?
No, probably not. It's a short line though, and I think, we've been pushing for the bypass and bailout on pretty much every other site. When we've actually approved some that have up to 20 or 30 cars without the bailout. Chick-fil-A comes to mind. So it's kind of hard to require that when we've let a few other folks go. But I think if they were to restripe that perhaps and maybe use a mountable curb on the outside, that might be a big help.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we look to the applicant, if they'd want to step forward and offer any comments as well on this project.
Gotcha, okay. I'm Joe Grochowalski with Omega Architects. I'm the architect for the project. And basically, what you see before you today is a whole bunch of improvements from the last time that we were here. And basically, because we couldn't work out an agreement with the neighbors to the south, so the final solution was just to buy the neighbors to the south. And so that's what we did. And it opened up a lot of other areas. And basically, it took a big fence out of the way, and we could improve a whole lot of different areas. So, and we were then able to make the building a little bit bigger. We were able to add a 6th pump out front. We were able to move the storm pond. And this site was never really expected to have access to Walker Avenue. If you drive out there, you can tell it's about 5 feet higher than the than the street elevation is there. They figured everything would come in off from Northridge or off from that cul-de-sac. And so that's one of the reasons why we have stormwater problems. This whole site was designed for the stormwater to drain north into a big detention pond on the north side of Northridge. And because we're now lower, to get to Walker Avenue as a driveway, everything came down a few feet, and all of a sudden over half our lot couldn't go to that storm pond anymore. It was too low. And so that's how we ended up with the storm pond where we are. And we will be working shortly, I'm sure. J&H would like to build something on that site along with the gas station. We're not in design stage for anything particular right now, but that's kind of the aspiration of the whole thing. And Scott was right. There's a good chance the storm pond, the size of it, the design of it, the shape of it might change going down the line. But we've pretty much got everything solved, I think. Adam Feenstra with Feenstra Associates can answer any technical questions you might have. But and just to comment too on the bypass lanes, most of the bypass lanes that I've done on this type of situation, most of the bypass lanes are 20 feet wide. We've got a couple of them that when they're only single lanes, we've gone down to 12 feet wide. Not so great for making the turn with trucks with trailers and things like that. But most of the time the 20-foot works for a bypass. People are sticking to the curb on the right-hand side for the most part. So anyway, we're here. We'll answer any questions you have. So,
Any comments or questions for the applicant?
Well, it seems to me like you've done a lot of work, and some of the things we objected to has been taken care of, and I'm kind of impressed in buying the more land really worked, didn't it? I mean, this is turning out very well. This is turning out very well with the more land and you bought and stuff, and I think you've done a good job with that.
well, what struck me is we're in the middle of May right now, and then to be reminded that we were here on September 1st, I was like, whoa. We don't usually go that far between, usually it's a month or two when we get things straightened out, but when you're buying a piece of property and negotiating easements and things like that, then before you know it, you're 8 months out now. So, but we're okay. We're timing. We're set to basically once we get approval, we'll probably be moving in fairly quickly to get our soil erosion permit, so we can go out and start moving dirt and things like that to prep for the in-ground tanks and that sort of thing. And then probably within a couple of weeks, we'll have plans in for building permit too. So we're ready to pull the trigger on it right away too, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioners, Scott, any impressions?
Well, I guess to kind of piggyback off of what Dr. Joe said, you know, it looks like they've made a lot of improvements. I'm happy that they've moved that driveway farther from the intersection. I know that was a big concern for us before, so it sounds and looks like they've made all of the, you know, the things that we flagged last time they've addressed, and a couple of minor issues maybe still, but you know, I would be in favor of what they presented tonight.
Thank you. Pat?
Ditto.
Nothing to add.
I tend to agree that, as Scott described it, it does look like a good project, and don't see any issues with the conditions, provided, I guess, the conditions are acceptable to the applicant as we would go forward.
My comments were gonna be based on that CA, what the plan was for that, but obviously they don't have much on it, and it's good to hear that they wanna do something with it. I hate to see for it to be vacant. I guess I'd probably take that pond and make an L shape out of it right out of the gate to try not to have to move it later. Yeah, I'm in support.
Great work. I'm happy with where it's at. I'm happy with the role that it has to play in the greater Northridge development, so very comfortable and happy to move forward with it.
Okay.
I'll add one thing. There is a possibility you can find sand there. I've found sand on those sites, so it is there, but there's pockets, so you're gonna wanna do a mooring.
And I think that the notes from staff, I think, are predicated upon getting that that information and then making that determination there at that point in time. Do we hear a motion?
If I could step in real quick, though, we do want to see that, the formal traffic study that Progressive prepared that wasn't released, because we should review that.
Okay. So
That, is that in your statement, your notes?
It's kind of an open issue,
Can I, just for clarification, are you talking about the executive summary that we had talked about?
No,
The traffic study that was done with the traffic counts that we received?
no, what I'm talking about is something different, to look at the driveways and the level of service at those driveways. So, I think it was Nick Croy that you guys had
Yeah,
hired.
Nick
So
Croy.
when I contacted him, he said he wasn't authorized to release that, and I'm not sure what the relationship is there.
No,
if there's a
if
problem
I'll note that. I'll get a hold of him tomorrow and have him send that to you, so. No reason not to, so.
very good.
I'll make a motion. Case number 21-025, J&H Oil Station, Gas Station, C-Store, and Drive-Thru Restaurant. I make a motion to approve the final area site plan for the proposed gas station, C-Store, Drive-Thru Restaurant, and related site improvements at 2352 Northridge Drive Northwest, also known as Lot 6 of Walkerview CPD, per the plan set last revision dated 5/4/22, subject to the following conditions based on the following findings. Condition 1, the applicant shall address all the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated 5/10/2022, including the traffic study that has been requested. Number 2, the applicant shall revise the civil sheets to include a revision date panel that also contains the applicant's contact information. Number 3, the applicant shall revise the plan set to include the most recent version of the Walkerview PUD PSP. Number 4, the applicant shall revise the site plan to identify areas of planned cross access. Number 5, the applicant shall draft cross-access easement agreements for review by the city attorney prior to the recordation and provide a copy of said easement agreements to the Community Development Department prior to the issuance of any building occupancy. Number 6, the applicant shall provide 3 sealed sets of civil engineer plans incorporating the above recommended revisions to the Community Development Department prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 7, the applicant may be required to provide a financial guarantee in the form of a letter of credit or cash escrow deposit to ensure the quality completion of site items such as landscaping at the time of building permit issuance. Findings of facts from section 94-213-7E. The final area site plan meets the standards contained in section 94-213. The final area site plan is in substantial compliance with the previously approved Walkerview PASP. The final area site plan complies with the uses permitted by the Walker CPUD district and any prohibitions of specific use by the Planning Commission.
Is there support to the motion?
Support.
Support by Joe. So motion by Tyler, supported by Joe to conditionally approve the site plan before us as detailed in the memo, in the motion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, you can do this one.
I suppose I can.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing. That's for special exception use permit and site plan review. And if we could have Tricia Anderson, Planning Director, introduce the project.
Thanks for remembering my name, Terry. So we have the local kitchen and sports lounge with us tonight. They are requesting special exception use review and site plan review, and the action requested by the Planning Commission is to review the site plan and the special exception use request for the outdoor seating and service area for the local, and to grant approval with or without conditions, tabling, or denial of the request. The property address is 4322 Remembrance Road. The lot size is 2.28 acres. The lot is zoned to C1. The future land use designation is mixed use, and it's within the neighborhood node community character designation. General location of the project site is right across the street on the south side of Remembrance Road, just east of the Wilson Remembrance Roundabout and across from city offices. And with us tonight we have Doug Mileski, one of the owners of the local, and Mary Weber with the local. So just a little bit of background on this site. Back in 2003, the building was constructed, and the first occupant of the building was the National Pastime Restaurant. So this was way before my time of visiting Walker. I have never been to the National Pastime Restaurant, but I have heard about it, and I also have heard about Marnie Walker's, which was another previous occupant of the site. And then it turned into Beer 30. I'm not really sure how long that establishment lasted. But now it's the local, and I believe it's been since 2018 that you've been in business over there. And so, I'm sorry?
It was home team after Beer 30. They had to change it for the Little League's uniforms. Sorry, I said further.
Gotcha, okay. So the name Beer 30 had to change to
Home team,
Home Team.
so that the kids that represented the restaurant could wear it on their jerseys.
Gotcha. I guess they weren't thinking in advance when they named it Beer 30, right?
Well, I mean, maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but obviously they were not.
Maybe they didn't plan to be on Little League shirts. Either way, it's fun to know the history of some of these sites that we have to look at for approvals on stuff like this. So, you all might remember in 2020 when we had a ordinance amendment for temporary outdoor restaurant seating. because COVID was kind of causing, restaurants and just eating and drinking establishments and bars. The health department was placing limitations on occupancy, and so businesses had, were granted some flexibility, especially the ones that were serving alcohol. The Michigan Liquor Control Commission allowed for an expanded outdoor consumption area. And so if you couldn't gather inside, then businesses were taking their people outside and trying to stay afloat that way. Luckily, the local is still here, and they put some picnic tables out in front of their site shortly. I don't know. Was it last summer, 2021? Okay, so we were still issuing the temporary outdoor restaurant seating, and we issued them one of those temporary permits. And then I think it was November of 2021, the MLCC rescinded their allowance for the expanded outdoor consumption. But the folks at the local had already gotten their area licensed, so they were legit whether they wanted to operate out there all the time, and if they wanted to make this more of a permanent situation. And so they began holding some outdoor live music events, and I bring this up to Doug a lot. When the first time I heard the live music event, it was during a ZBA meeting. And Doug happened to be at that ZBA meeting because one of his clients was asking for a text interpretation. And so that was their first night. And they have since figured out how to orient the speakers to make it so sound was not reverberating off their building and bouncing over to the commission chambers. After that, we never heard the music again. So existing conditions, I don't think it looks like this right now, but this is what it looked like last summer, and this is essentially what they're trying to bring back, but more of a semi-permanent nature. So they have an existing deck out there that they've gotten approval for way back when. And in fact, I think they had to have a variance, not the local, but it was the national pastime. They had to have a variance to have it placed on the front of the building. And so they got by with just the barrels so that, because one of the MLCC rules is that you provide a visible barrier so that people know where the licensed area is and where it's not. And over here on this side is kind of where they would have their live musicians stage and play music. So the site plan that they're proposing still has these outdoor picnic tables, 8 of them, cozily seats 48 people. I would imagine it would probably be more like 32 people with 4 at each table at full capacity, unless people really want to sit close to each other. So they're also proposing some actual fencing around the perimeter of the outdoor area. And what they would like to do is have this be a seasonal outdoor seating and service area. Because they feel like they wouldn't do this as much in the winter, and so they would like to still have those parking spaces for folks in the winter time. And so the fence that they're proposing would be removable here, so that they can still have access into this area. They can still plow snow, and then they can put it back up again when they're ready to do their seasonal outdoor service. So I've already talked about most of this, but I'll go through the summary of improvements. So it's a seasonal outdoor seating and service area, 48 outdoor seats and picnic tables, live music, and removable fencing. They're proposing the hours of operation to be Monday through Thursday, 3 to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, noon to 11, and then Sunday, noon to 9. And then they have different hours for the live music. And as far as they've planned out right now, they're anticipating Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. So in recent times, we've had a lot of establishments come to us and say, hey, I want to do this outdoor seating area as more of a permanent fixture on my site. We've done that for Stan's Tacos. We did that for the former Bud's Burgers, the Smoke Shack over there next to Lost Art. And so the issue that we pay close attention to is the parking. So generally, when people are adding an outdoor service area, they're taking up some space that they already have, and in many cases, it ends up being part of their parking lot. And we want to make sure that if they're taking out parking spaces, that there's still places, or there's still enough space for patrons to park when people are sitting outside during the seasonal area. Or during the seasonal time. So the applicant has drawn up 3 different areas where their parking exists on the site currently. So they've got Area A, which is their back parking lot, Area B, which is the side parking lot facing Ace Hardware, and then Area C is where the proposed outdoor seating area would be. And so Area C contains 14 parking spaces. So during their seasonal time where they have this outdoor service area, they would be short 14 spaces. But realistically, they're not really short 14 spaces. Our ordinance allows for shared parking when it comes to businesses that don't have overlapping hours. So we can count this parking across the street over at the city offices toward their parking minimums. Because they have a total of 95 parking spaces, and that's to accommodate the occupancy on the inside of the building. And that exceeds the number required, which is 70. And so removing those 14 spaces during the seasonal time, we don't believe that that's going to be an issue here. So we're the way it is because of the available parking that's across the street. So in looking at the special exception use request, we have to go through those criteria that speak to essentially not being a detriment on a neighboring property. And so in my staff report, I went through each of these items and indicated if it's been met. So number 1 is no detriment, or the establishment, maintenance, location, or operation of the use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public. And so I believe that the standard has been met. Again, the Liquor Control Commission has jurisdiction over the rules for alcohol consumption. And one of the rules that they enforce is the requirement for a fence and a barrier between the seating area and the parking lot where vehicular traffic is present. So the fence is a safety measure, and it also, allows cars to know not to drive into that area. And it serves as a boundary so that patrons know where alcohol consumption is permitted. So the public, I don't believe that the public is going to be endangered as a result of the Planning Commission allowing this special exception use. The use is compatible with the zoning district. So this standard is met. This is a use that's permitted by special exception in the C1 zoning district. And so this district, the intent of this district is to allow accessory uses such as this one. The use will not impact property values, and there will be no adverse impact on the environment. I believe that standard has been met. And as I indicated in my staff report, the applicant has had the ability or had an opportunity to sort of test the waters last summer when, you know, they had just their temporary outdoor seating area. And so they have figured out how to mitigate any impacts of the sound reverberating off buildings or off landscaping and going into a direction that they don't want it to go. Like I said, we haven't heard the music after that first night. We have also not received any complaints. And so that was one of the things that I was kind of worried about on the very beginning, because it was pretty loud that first night. But we have not received any complaints. I talked to our code enforcement specialist as I was writing my report to make sure that that was a factual statement. She has not received any complaints. And there's residential surrounding this site. So there's residential behind the site and there's residential to the north, or to the west, where the Riviera is situated. And so like I said, we have not heard any complaints. The use will not impede on the normal orderly development and improvement of surrounding property. This standard is met. Adequate utilities exist. This doesn't really apply to this, but yes, this is met also. And the use conforms to all applicable zoning regulations and laws. And so this is where the parking standards come in. I believe that that has been met, and so because of that, we can check off this box as well. The only comment that I would have is that the landscaping could use just a tiny little facelift. This is what it looked like last summer. So I don't know if that photo was taken before some landscape work was done. But it's not required, but it's always encouraged whenever property owners are proposing improvements to their site. Landscaping is always one of those things that when you make improvements to it, it's just going to make it look better and it's going to draw more people. So just a suggestion, again, not a requirement. So with all that said, I'm recommending that the Planning Commission grant the site plan approval and the special exception use permit for the outdoor service area and seating area for the local kitchen and sports lounge located at 4233 Remembrance Road as proposed. And that's all for me.
Thanks, Tricia. Board members, Pat.
Sorry, Tricia. Quick question. Does the applicant have to provide any communication to patrons when the parking lot's full that public parking is across the street and not next door to Ace? Or is that, I mean, Ace is usually closed by the time you fill up anyways. I don't know if there's any issues with that.
So if there would be an issue, you know, they can post something on their site. But Ace Hardware is also a place where if they wanted to negotiate a shared parking agreement, they can do that.
And I would think if there's been no issues over the years, then I don't think it's going to be a future issue, so.
That's correct. Last year, we didn't have a problem with overflow parking, but we'd be willing to negotiate with ACE if it became an issue at all, and we'd also be willing and able to put up notices that they could cross the street here to park. If we did that, I'd be back here though asking for some other advice from the city in terms of like a crosswalk or something, because I wouldn't want that many people doing that that often. But that's kind of tangential, but something I've been thinking about anyway.
Thank you. Could we have your name, please? and
Yes, Doug Mileski. I'm one of the owners of the local, and I'm an attorney with F. Douglas Mileski PLC.
Thank you.
And yes, I was in this room with the Zoning Board of Appeals on our first night, and we had aimed the speakers towards our building slightly, thinking that would, make the noise go in a better direction. Well, instead it bounced, and it was a hot evening, and you had all the doors open, or the zoning board did, and it came in here, and I wanted to crawl into the podium that night. So the next day I came over here, talked to people, and then I went over to the library as well and talked to them, and they said they could barely hear it over there. They said it was kind of nice to actually hear the music, and I said, well, we're going to try to re-angle that and figure out how to not have it be disruptive on this side of the street, because it's not our intent to play loud bands. We're not going to play death metal bands. It's mostly cover bands, Jimmy Buffett kind of things. We're not a late night, as you saw from our regular hours. We're not a late night bar. In fact, we're mostly a restaurant. We thought we were buying a bar when we bought it, but with 70% of our sales coming from food, it's much more of a restaurant, and we've embraced that. We focus on a lot of activities with West Catholic and Kenowa Hills and some of the other elementary schools, doing fundraisers and activities like that as well. As far as the landscaping in front, we're proud of the fence that we're planning to put in. It's good. I don't know if any of you have noticed the new fencing that we put up on the deck, but it's going to be very similar to that, going across the front of the building. There's mention in Tricia's report about lighting that doesn't require a light plan. We're talking about putting decorative LED lighting. That might not happen this summer just for budgetary reasons, but that would be the goal, and we definitely want the landscaping cleaned up because we think that the curb appeal will draw more people into the restaurant, and so that's on our radar as well. So,
All right, thank you.
certainly, if there's any questions,
Any other questions for Tricia?
Tricia, I'm of the applicant. Can you expand? I'm dealing with that temporary fencing. You're willing to give up the parking spots in the summer months, but you want them back in the I guess the colder season.
Well, it makes for plowing easier. There's the backup area, which is where the band would actually be located, but it makes plowing of the whole front lot easier. We've got to have somewhere for the snow to go, and so opening it up and gaining most of the spaces back is just helpful and it makes easier plow runs for our plowing service.
It's easier because you want those spaces, but you think you need those spaces in the winter months?
I not necessarily need them. I think that people like a short of a walk inside in colder months. Those spaces are closer to the entrance of the building, and so I think that parking way in the back of our back lot in the winter is just farther for people to walk. It's not a matter of we need them because they're all full, but as a convenience measure, when it's 2 degrees outside, I'd like our customers to be able to get in more quickly. And there's less walking across an icy parking lot, whereas I can salt the sidewalks and make sure that people are safely getting into the building. So it's more a convenience measure than a necessity measure.
Okay. Thank you. At this point, Scott, it appeared that you had no issues with the...
No engineering comments.
No engineering comments, okay. Okay. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Jason to open the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any public comment concerning this?
On behalf of the musicians that play at the local, thank you. That's all.
Okay.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Scott, to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. What's your pleasure with, on this project? Joe, what do you think on the?
Well, I was, concerned about the noise and stuff, and I think we've had eyewitness to what happened, and sound like you've corrected it and stuff, and it's a lot of land over there. I was surprised how big a backyard you had behind the restaurant there. No, I think this is all right. I'm all for it.
Looks great. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a nice project. I'm somewhat curious on the removable fence, if that tends to stay in over time, but I think for now, and it looks like it could be easily removed if they really needed that parking later. I could see where Mark was going with that.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest question was the sound. Some accommodations for that, and this is a notice public hearing, and we don't have a number of people out here in opposition to it, so that looks to the positive.
I agree with what's been said and have nothing to add.
I believe it's a good project, and I'm okay with it.
Yep, I'm good with it.
Same, I'm in favor of it and nothing new to add.
Case number 22-009, 4322 Remembrance Road Northwest, the local outdoor service seating area. I make a motion to approve the site plan and special acceptance use permit for the outdoor service and seating area for the local kitchen and sports lounge located at 4233 Remembrance Road Northwest as proposed.
Support.
Motion by Tyler, supported by Steve, to approve the project as submitted. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I need to from the next plan, so.
Okay, thank you. This is the third project for this evening is Conveyability, building expansion. Tricia, if you could introduce that, please.
Thanks, Terry. We have a business called Conveyability here for site plan review, and they are proposing a building expansion at 2889 Northridge Drive. And the action requested by the Planning Commission is to review the site plan for a 15,000 square foot building expansion and to grant approval with or without conditions, tabling, or denial of the requests. Again, this is a site plan review. The address is 2889 Northridge. The size of the site is approximately 2.02 acres. The zoning district is industrial park. The future land use designation is enterprise within the Northwest Neighborhood Cluster. And the general location of the project site is on the south side of Northridge Drive between Peach Ridge Avenue and Walker Ridge Drive. And we have Jeff Brinks with us from Venture Engineering on behalf of Heath Verstraete. Did I say that right? That's not me, but that's his name. Okay. Okay. And so this is what it looks like out there right now. This site is within the Blanche Plat. It's one of our platted industrial parks. You all just not too long ago reviewed for a site that was kind of across the street from here. So this is the plat map right here, and this is lot 3. And the original building was constructed in 2001. Conveyability was the original occupant. And based on my research, Conveyability has been in business since 1980. And then they moved to this subject site in 2001 because they needed some more space. And the original site plan showed the future expansion, and I want to say that the future expansion was like 17,000 square feet. And this proposed addition will be 15,000 square feet. So what they are proposing here, and I'll go back to the site plan, 15,000 square foot addition off the north end of the existing building. They're proposing a parking lot addition with 15 added parking spaces, 1 new loading dock, some additional landscaping, and some wall pack lighting on the building expansion. So this is a pretty straightforward project from a planning perspective, and don't have a ton of comments. One thing that I wanted to highlight, though, is that they are proposing a row of arborvitae along this the western property line, the eastern property line. It's been a long day, sorry guys. And so this wasn't something that we required, but we said, there was there's a note on here that says remove existing tree line to the limits of construction as necessary. And a lot of times when we see the words as necessary, that doesn't really give us an exact. And so we pointed that out to them and indicated that this area here is the residential parcel. And we just, basically said, let's make sure that those trees are on the subject site property. And so I think a way to mitigate any tree removal that would cause a lot more visibility to the site, they added this row of arborvitae, which I think will serve as a really great screening. So the lighting plan that they submitted looks fine from a couple of wall pack lighting areas. The only thing that I would recommend is that they adjust the illumination so that there's 0 foot candles over here on the other side of the property line. That's something that we ask for whenever it is something that abuts residential property. And I think that would be an easy fix with adjusting the illumination. So we will a revised photometric plan that reflects this, and having the Planning Commission allow staff to review and approve that photometric plan is one of the conditions. And so we are recommending that the Planning Commission grant the approval for the 15,000 square foot expansion of the existing building and the related site improvements for conveyability located at 2889 Northridge Drive per the plan set. Last revision dated 5/4/22, subject to all of the standard conditions, with the added one being that the photometric plan be adjusted to reduce the illumination.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. Board members, any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to Scott Connors, City Engineer.
Just 3 notes from us. The truck turning that kind of shows the easiest route to just drive right straight forward through that overhead door, but it doesn't show how to back up, and that's really what we're looking for there. If they're going to pull in forward and they have to back up, it's probably going to be into those parking spots a little bit. So we do want to see that. We want to make sure that that can work. There was also a catch basin shown on the floor plan that we were a little bit concerned about because it wasn't anywhere near the sanitary sewer in the building from our perspective, and very close to the exterior storm sewer. So you don't want to have anything in the inside of the building connected to the exterior storm sewer because that's the wrong pipe. So we want to make sure that gets confirmed with the building official. And then lastly, also with the building official, we want to make sure that that retaining wall, which is quite tall and quite close to the property line, we want to make sure that's sealed by a professional engineer. So it's not just kind of thrown together. That's it.
Comments, questions for Scott? All right, thank you.
Sure. Good evening, Jeff Brinks with Venture Engineering. I'll be short and sweet. It's another successful business in the city of Walker that's looking to continue to be successful and expand, and We have no issues with any of the conditions that staff has offered, and happy to comply with those. I do have Ken Watkins, the architect, and Matt, not Heath, from Conveyability, if there are any questions that pertain to the project that we'd be happy to answer. So with that, I will sit down and appreciate your attention to this issue. Thank you.
Board members, any questions for the applicant? All right. Scott, what's your take?
Happy to see that they're expanding and want to stay here in Walker. I appreciate that. I think we all do. There are a few things that need to be fixed, but it looks like they're willing to, agree to the conditions that have been put forth by staff. So I'm in favor of moving forward.
I'm good with it, no additional comments.
I think the original building and site is attractive, and I look and see that they would expand on that, and it'd be a good addition to Walker.
Yep, I'm in agreement with comments that have been offered thus far.
I agree. I think it's a nice project. I did have a question for the applicant. What is the truck that's going in and out of there? Is that mostly a box truck, or is that a full semi-style truck?
Yes, so the door on the addition is an overhead door, not a truck dock. So mostly what they're going to get in and out of there is a box truck. They do have the dock on the existing building that would handle the larger vehicles. So what would be utilizing this particular overhead door on the addition would be more box truck related.
One of the comments that Scott had, and presumably will be read into the motion here, was to be able to show a template that would turn on that. Have you done that at this point? 'Cause
I haven't done
It
that.
does look somewhat tight on there.
No, I haven't done that yet. We will do so for sure. And if there's some adjustments that need to be made, I know one suggestion that we had at the staff meeting with Scott was that maybe some of the parking on that eastern property line could be placed along the building to facilitate some additional room on the east side. So
Okay, so there's a plan in place.
oh yeah, certainly we can deal with it. And there is additional parking beyond what's required on the site as it is. So
Yeah, I think it's a great project. So I'm in favor.
No, looks great. I had the same kind of thought on the truck turning movements and the parking movement piece, but no, excited to see you guys expanding and very, very excited to see it moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. You go out there now and the green grass and the trees are in full. It's a beautiful place out there with the sidewalks and the rolling hills, and it doesn't look like an industrial site, I'm impressed. So I don't know if Scott's been around here more than the rest of whoever put this thing together needs a lot of credit. I think it was a lot of people. But none of the rest, I certainly had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm very impressed with the whole thing. Thank you.
it's got the credit.
Looking for a motion?
Yes.
All right, I will make a motion for case 22-010 to approve the site plan for the 15,000 square foot expansion of the existing building and related site improvements for Conveyability located at 2889 Northridge Drive Northwest per the plan set last revision dated. Do you have a date, Tricia?
May 4th.
Dated May 4th, 2022, subject to the following conditions. The applicant shall address all the items outlined in the city engineer's report dated 5/11/2022. The applicant shall add the latest revision date to the revised set plan set. The applicant shall revise the photometric plan to reduce illumination levels to 0 FC beyond the east property line. The applicant shall incorporate revisions required as conditions of approval and submit 3 hard copies and a PDF of the revised plan set to the Community Development Department prior to the issuance of a building permit for the expansion.
Okay, motion by Steve, supported by Jason to conditionally approve the site plan as submitted. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, staff, any other business?
Yeah, I have large piles of site plans on my desk right now. We are scheduling out into July at this point. You know, we'd talked a little bit about, I think at the last meeting, about how, you know, we have the discretion to cap the number of items on the agenda. And I think keeping it at 3 helps keep everybody productive, particularly when we have long, sort of drawn out or controversial items. So I've been trying to keep that going with having 3 on the agenda. So we have quite a bit of stuff coming up. We received a rezone request for the Deltaplex property. We received an application.
Is that light industrial that they're rezoning, RPD or what?
They plan to rezone to IPUD. Yep. And what else? There's a U-Haul interior access self-storage that's being proposed over within the Avastar PUD. And there will be a Chick-fil-A coming over on Alpine. There's a car wash being proposed in Westtown. I know I'm missing a couple. We have a rezone coming up at our next meeting for some residential property on Remembrance. It's proposed to be rezoned to A2, which allows for duplexes. Oh, and we have a really big residential development coming your way. The old Green Ridge Golf Course property. So I think that's going to draw a lot of people. We originally sent out the public hearing notice with the wrong date on it, and we received a lot of feedback from the residents that got it, saying that we purposely sent out a notice after we had a meeting, but the date was wrong. We sent out new public hearing notices, and we're still within the 15-day period. So did some damage control with that, but that's going to draw out a big crowd. And one of our city commissioners lives in the adjacent neighborhood. So that should be an interesting one.
You said that's Green Ridge, where?
So behind Target.
Behind Target?
There's some apartments that are behind Target, and then beyond that, there is it's where the golf course used to be. Yeah.
I couldn't afford to go on there, so.
Yeah, I learned a lot about that golf course and doing some research on that property. And I'm like, I never knew there was a golf course here.
There was a question a little while back about litigation involving the self-storage where DW used to be. And has that been resolved?
I did hear Megan Gorby say that there are not trucks there anymore. But as far as I know, their appeal from circuit court has not been heard yet, I don't believe. We normally get a copy of the briefing, and I don't remember seeing it. So it's possible that maybe they gave up. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Okay. All right.
What about the hotel across from Meyer Corporate? Is that a thing gonna get started at all this summer? Do we know?
At this point, they'll have to come back to the planning commission because it's been a year. Yep, it's been over a year since they received their site plan approval. For all that work that we put in on that one, you would.
Is that a delay because of just
I don't know. You never know. You know, that could very well be the reason. Could be related to COVID, because I think that one came in before the whole COVID thing started. I know that's set a lot of projects back, and people are still kind of trying to recuperate from that. But they don't necessarily call us and say, hey, sorry we haven't gotten started with our project. But, you know, we can only just speculate why they haven't started yet. But you will see them again, because they'll have to come back for a renewal or an extension.
We got an office on Wilson, are they coming back soon?
Yep, they'll be coming back. They're one of the ones that got bumped into July because our 6-1 and 6-15 agendas are full. But they'll be on, I think, the first agenda in July.
Scott?
I'm going to lose my voice, so I'll try to be brief here. But on Monday night, we had an open house for the Bristol and Panel intersection bridge. And that has some planning components to it, because for a long time we've said we kind of like the way that harnesses the industrial and keeps it out of that neighborhood. And we've since discovered that the only way we're ever going to touch that bridge is to put it back with a taller height. And so if we want to put 2 lanes in there and put pedestrian movements in there, it has to be a little bit taller. But we've kind of made the best of that. We've looked at the industrial property on the north side of the railroad, and what we can do is we can allow that truck route to go north another few hundred feet, including the tunnel or the bridge, and then it actually allows the industrial on the north side to go south to get to the truck route. So technically, it's a bit of an improvement on that. But I guess in general, I've never seen a public open house or public meeting that went so well. Everybody was excited. And if they had anything even borderline negative to say, they quickly said, no, we want this, you know, we love this. It was, maybe they just don't like the speed limits in the area or something like that. And so it went really well. So I think that's going to go to the city commission next Monday, and hopefully we would get authorization to proceed. And that'll be a really, really good, long overdue project.
Was that designed to have the center, was that to help support the railroad? Because I can see that getting hit a few times. At least the rendering I saw.
It's because you have to have such a wide span, it involves a deeper beam. And so having that, we'll call it a pier in the middle, helps a lot with the vertical clearance. Because every foot that we have to go up or down costs a fortune. Because now we're into, you know, if you raise the railroad, you're going both ways for a long distance. And if you go further or down lower for the road, you get into some drainage concerns. And the design we have now, we think works really well. It allows us to have this beautiful aesthetic looking bridge. The bridge actually, in the picture, in the rendering, is probably about $100,000 more than just putting a plain old steel beam bridge in there. But it really helps with the planning component. And I guess that's why I bring it up here, because I think we've done the best we could to adhere to what the people wanted, which was to kind of have a gateway to Alpine Estates.
Yeah, truck, you said you're gonna go north with the trucks, you let them go through the bridge and then what, head up to Walkerview? Is that?
No, the truck route will end about, let's say, 300-400 feet north of the bridge. By law, we can't, if we take any, well, if we touch that bridge at all, we have to allow trucks to go through there. But I guess what we've done is we've said there's industrial property on the north side that's pinched on the north side and can't get south to the truck route. So what we can do now is they can get to the truck route by going south. So we can still have Bristol to the north be listed as a non-truck route to help protect that. And as we told the neighbors out there, that doesn't mean there's not going to be any trucks, because or if there's a construction project or anything like that, you know, we all have to understand that there's going to be trucks in other areas, and that happens a lot on 3 Mile between Alpine and Bristol as well, where it's not a truck route, but there are times when you just have to be a little bit more lenient with it, and everyone seemed to understand that.
Sounds like you did your homework on that one.
Not all of it. It was 115 years old. I couldn't find everything.
One last thing, I saw the property that's down off of Walker. I see a sold sign on it, where's the old train track next to, what's that company? That they just put the addition in where they can come out. Betts.
Oh.
Who bought that? I saw the sign was up for sale, and then all of a sudden it's sold. Are they gonna do anything with that? Because one time we talked about having the street go through to Bristol on that old railroad
I
section.
had some weird phone calls about that, and I can't place exactly who was calling, but maybe a year ago, we even had calls that were talking about the cemetery that's in that area too.
Yeah, Holy Cross Cemetery.
They're gonna cross Mill Creek?
But it didn't make any sense to me because it's all in the floodplain. There's not much you can do there.
Yeah, that's-
So
Somebody bought it.
Somebody bought it, yeah, I saw the sign.
Yeah,
I can tell you there won't be a Chick-fil-A there.
that'd be a good spot for one.
They could process them.
Target's gonna have to move all their sea containers to make room for Chick-fil-A on the side of their building, put it up there. The whole side parking lot's full of,
The side parking lot?
yeah, the one where we suggested Chick-fil-A go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just full of containers, there's no parking over there.
Yeah, it looks like a movie scene, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it looks like
Weird.
a logistics dump yard, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, back when Chick-fil-A was looking at that, I always thought if Target would move its front to that side, because I don't think they gain anything by having it where it is now. You could put a restaurant out front there, because then Target's parking off to the side.
we don't want Chick-fil-A out there.
And maybe one more thing to add about that site too is that we've been talking for a long time about a roundabout at Center Drive and Weatherford, just to the southeast of that site. And we have a really big, nice grant to go ahead and get that done. I think it's 2024 that we would be working on that. So that'll be a nice improvement for a really bad stretch of Center Drive that's had, it's been troublesome for accidents for a long time and people darting back and forth, and we can clean it all up with a simple circle. So.
I have one more thing to add. We have been working on updating the zoning ordinance, and we have the staff working group, and then we also have the subcommittee. And we have the sign ordinance that we've been kind of paying special attention to because we've had a lawsuit. A lot of you probably have noticed the billboard. We might have talked about this at the last meeting. But we are putting on the final touches of the sign ordinance, the revised sign ordinance. We're gonna bring it to the ordinance committee, and then we should get it to them sometime in probably late June, and then it'll come your way after that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Very good. Thank you.